Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Career Evangelist podcast. We have another amazing guest with us today. She spent a decade as a top-ranked sell-side analyst at Morgan Stanley, and now she's the secret weapon behind the world's most successful, powerful executive. She teaches CEOs, CFOs, and senior leaders how to command a room, own their presence, and protect millions in value, all by mastering the one thing most leaders never learn, and that's how to regulate their nervous system under fire. So, guys, get ready because this conversation is going to change how you show up at work. And with that, please let's welcome our incredible guest, Bianca Riemer. Hello, Bianca. Welcome to
Hi,
the show.
Bola. Thank you for having me.
All right. So you were a top-ranked analyst at Morgan Stanley for a decade. That's
Mm,
a big accomplishment. So what made you walk away from that world to what you do today?
yeah, that's such a good question. So what happened after those 10 years at Morgan Stanley is I came back from having my second baby, and also my parents both died at the same time we moved house, and there was just a lot of change in my life. And I thought, work just wasn't as interesting as it used to be anymore. I mean, I had all these numbers flashing at me and the stock market, and there were things happening in the stock market, but it wasn't as exciting for me anymore. So I thought, hey, I need a change. And I had a chat with a lot of senior people at Morgan Stanley who were in other departments and with senior people in the industry to find out what their jobs entailed and also to find out whether maybe they had a job for me. And what I found out was that most people in senior positions do not enjoy their job. They do not find it fulfilling. They do not find it interesting. They don't really care too much about the money. Obviously, the money is important to support their lifestyle and the lifestyles of their families, but they feel empty on the inside. And I just lost my parents and I just had my children. And I thought, hey, there has to be more to life than just guessing share prices and sitting in an office for 12 hours per day. So that's why I left. And I had no idea where I would end up. You know, it was a very squiggly road. I just decided to train in a lot of things that I'd hope would enable me to help other people so that nobody else would have to face the fate of my parents who were hardworking entrepreneurs and never met their grandchildren. So
Wow.
that's what was important to me when I left.
Hey, Bianca, sorry to hear that, but thank you for sharing that story with us. I try to motivate people to find love in what they do because if we
Mm.
don't enjoy what we do, it's going to be hard to do our best. So, thank you for sharing that. But before you left, I'm sure maybe you put some things in place, at least like a cushion for you to land on. You are not just stopping your work without having a plan. Can you share some insight into that maybe plan, how you figure out that, okay, maybe it's the right time for me to leave, and this is the next step for me to take?
Yeah, so in terms of cushion, I mean, financial cushion is very important, of course. And I was lucky enough to have paid off my mortgage and to not have had an expensive, extravagant lifestyle. So I had a lot of savings because I worked in that high paying job and I never had any time to actually spend the money. I had quite a bit of savings, and I was an investor, so I knew what I wanted to invest in, and my investments have worked very well for me. So I had a bit of a cushion. I had the money that enabled me to take any training that I wanted to take. So I trained as a hypnotherapist. I was already a yoga teacher. I trained in energy healing, pranic healing, lots of different coaching and training qualifications. You know, I was like a cookie monster for knowledge, basically. And then I also started getting some clients in from my network. as well. But so in terms of cushion, and before you jump from your career, what I would say is make sure that you know what your outgoings are and where you're going to get some incomings from. Maybe also already get a pipeline of potential clients, get some clients in, because that's what a lot of new self-employed people tend to struggle with, to actually sell their skills, sell themselves rather than sell a product. And also build up a support system, because for a lot of self-employed people, the families are not necessarily very supportive. They just want to get another job. If you are changing to another job, the support system is still very important, because it might not work out. The other job might not. That's actually what happened to me. When I left Morgan Stanley, I left for another investment bank. And I knew on the second day that I was there that I did not want to work there. But hey, I saw it as a kick in the butt from higher up to
Yeah.
go into something else. Yeah, I just saw it as a sign. Okay, I'm not meant to be here. Okay, I get it. So, so that's what I would say. Have the financial cushion, have the support network for your emotional, your mental support, and do something that you're interested in. I haven't mentioned that yet, but hopefully that's come through. I'm just learning, Cookie Monster for learning, doing all these courses and then applying them with my clients.
Oh, that's good. And I appreciate you mentioning that. So talking about what you do today, I know you help CEOs, CFOs to command the room. Maybe can you talk more about what you do today so that my listeners they can understand it better?
Yes. So the people that tend to value me most are people who are stepping into a senior role or have already stepped into a senior role, and they have a sense that they might not be cut out for it. So the role is quite big and they're starting to question themselves, or they just want to make sure that they're not going to question themselves. So what we do is, the work I do with them has three phases. The first one is your personal branding and positioning phase, where we work on the nervous system regulation, your identity, and your personal branding. Then the second phase is your relationship building, where we map the stakeholders and I teach them simple techniques to build rapport with anybody that they've just met, and to start influencing people. And then the third phase is the messaging phase, where we look at how do you talk to senior decision makers in your company or in your industry? How do you influence them without spending months on building your network? How do you lead a team that maybe you've inherited and you don't know the personalities and the dynamics? And then also public speaking, if that's something that the person has got as part of their remit as well. So those three phases, we put them together in a tailor-made approach to help the person where they're at the moment.
So here's something that I've not heard before. You use nervous system to regulate leadership performance, right? Break that down for us. What does that even mean in practice?
Yeah. So your executive presence as a leader is a bit like a lighthouse. So if you imagine when you're with your friends or people that you are comfortable with and you're doing something that you know you're good at, you have a lot of presence, right? You are magnetic to anybody. You probably have strangers walk up to you and want to know why you're so good at whatever it is that you're doing, playing the guitar or preparing a meal or playing basketball. That's what executive presence is. It's like a lighthouse that attracts the boats. So executive presence at work, then we already have it naturally, but we create, our mind then creates negative emotions like fear, imposter syndrome, stress, anxiety, micro traumas, bad experiences from the past. They're like dark clouds around the lighthouse, which dim your executive presence, and then you become invisible to other people. And that's why then certain people get ignored above and beyond what the title would demand, is because our negative thoughts about ourselves, our fears, create these big clouds around ourselves, and then we self-sabotage and people don't give us the respect that we deserve. So in my work, I help people clear the clouds so that the light can shine through.
I like what you said about the light shining through, but I want to go a little bit deeper
Mhm.
into executive presence. For me, I know you explaining it. It's about being comfortable. It's about confidence. It's about shining in the room. But how do we do that?
Yeah. So we naturally do it. If you look at children who play with their friends, they have a lot of light.
Okay.
If you spend time with people you're comfortable with, doing something that you know you're good at, you have a lot of this light. Um, we tend to dim our light, either dim our light or let it overshadow with dark clouds when we tell ourselves we're not good enough for a particular situation. That's when we go into hiding and other people don't really realize that we're in the room. So how can we then reignite our natural executive presence, right? So there's two ways. We can either make the light shine brighter. That's what most coaches out there teach. They teach you NLP techniques, from neurolinguistic programming, is where you create new thoughts that overpower your negative thoughts. So you create a lot of positive thoughts about yourself, a positive self-image, a new identity. You play the movie of how it's all going to work out so perfectly for yourself, right? So hypnotherapy, tapping, um, and any kind of future pacing and coaching. Those are the techniques that you can use, and you can use them by yourself to create the movie of how everything is just going to be perfect in that difficult situation. Now, the dark clouds are still going to be there, but you have amplified the light in yourself, and that's going to shine through the dark clouds. That's the first technique, and that you can do that yourself. The second technique is to actually remove the dark clouds. And that's where energy work comes in. So depending on whether or not the person's open to that, we can do the energy work. So what's energy? I mean, Bola, have you ever been in a building or entered a room where you just didn't like it there, but you couldn't put your finger on what it actually was because the furniture was nice? It
Yes.
didn't feel okay there. So what it is that somebody else would have let go of a lot of negative energy there. Maybe people had an argument, or they felt angry or scared. Um, and you are then becoming aware of this negative energy, but it's invisible. So you just know, I don't like it here. It doesn't feel good. But what happens is your energy body has got little energy wheels, 269 of them, and they breathe energy just like your lungs breathe air. And that's how then when the dirty energy comes into your energy body, a chemical reaction takes place. And then there's a signal in the brain that lets you know, I don't like it here. So anyways, what we do in pranic healing is we teach people how to breathe. And you just take nice deep breaths in and out of your belly. As you inhale, your belly button comes out. Why does the belly button go out when you inhale? Is because the diaphragm, the muscle that's underneath the lungs, that's responsible for breathing, pulls down and goes into the belly area. That's why your belly goes big as you inhale, and then your belly goes small as you exhale. It's called deep abdominal breathing. That's actually how children and pets breathe. So if you ever get the chance to watch a child or a pet breathe when they are relaxed, they're doing this deep abdominal breathing. Now, what's clairvoyantly been observed with deep abdominal breathing is that it takes the average adult 6 inhales and 6 exhales to get rid of a lot of those dark clouds around in their aura, in their energy field. And that then gives them natural executive presence, where all you need to do is just sit at the table with a straight back, look people in the eyes, and they're going to think, wow, this person has got a lot of presence.
So this is what you teach your clients how to do this breathing so that they
Mm-hmm.
coordinate their nervous system without all this stress or anxiety when they are in the room. So thank you for explaining that. Now, when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about executive presence, how does it different depending on our job level? Maybe it's a manager, maybe director or C-suite. What are some differences in executive presence when it comes to these levels?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question because there seems to be an assumption that
Okay.
it is different. I don't know. There is a certain difference in there. Um, because the more people you lead, the more energy has to come through you to lead these people. And one thing I noticed is that the more people somebody addresses, the bigger their energy gets. But what's also very interesting is, say, senior leaders who do have a lot of presence. There are different aspects to why they have presence. And when I explore this with my aspiring leaders or leaders who are going through the ranks, what's very interesting is that the leaders they most want to follow have got a lot of positivity around them. They have got very good self-esteem, no ego, but are incredibly magnetic, and you just want to be around them, you want to work for them, and you would do anything for them, right? But not because they ask you, because you want to do it for them. So these leaders, they're channeling a lot of nurturing energy, and they also have a vision of where they want the company to go. On the other end of the spectrum, there's the leader who you have respect to them, but it's not because you love them. It's because you're scared of them.
Yeah.
They are the leaders who tend to have a big ego. They command respect because of their title, and nobody really wants to be around them. And you're kind of avoiding them. And yes, okay, they're the boss, but you'd rather work for somebody else.
Right.
So they also have presence, but the presence is very different. The quality of the energy coming through them is very different. It's fear energy. It's the big ego is essentially low self-esteem.
Right.
That's why they're like that. So what kind of leader do you want to be?
Oh, that's so good. So, this is the Career Evangelist podcast, and I always want to make sure that we are giving uh, good advice to my listeners. And earlier on, based on your experience, we are going to listen to some of your advice now. Based on your comment earlier, you transitioned your career. And I know that there are many people out there right now that are terrified of making this career, I'll call it pivots. Uh,
Mm.
Maybe they are in a certain field, they are tired, they are not having that positive energy in their job anymore. They want to change, but they don't know how to make this change. What's your
Mm.
advice for someone that is tearing down a career transition right now? What should they do?
Yes. So as an accountant, I like to do a good stock take. So what's a stock take? You look at what you have and you look at what you want. And for me at the time, my parents died. They were young. And I thought, wow, what if I only have 20 years to live? And am I going to spend the rest of my life, or maybe less than that, right? Maybe 10 years. I mean, I was in my late 30s. My parents died when they were 60 on average. And do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And what does this job give me? And what am I missing out on? So my stock take at the time was, hey, my job gives me a certain degree of financial security, but people get fired in banking all the time, and you don't know why, even though the high performers, because sometimes decisions get made at top level, you never understand these decisions. So I had a certain degree of job security and a good financial cushion, but I felt empty on the inside. I didn't enjoy the nature of the job anymore, and also I didn't enjoy the way that we were treating each other. I did not enjoy that because I'd been off on maternity leave and people were a lot nicer to me in the mum circles than the colleagues in investment banking. So emotionally, mentally, I was not satisfied. Financially, yes, but I wanted more for myself. And that's when I decided I'd rather have less money, but love the people I'm working with, and also mentally and emotionally have the satisfaction that I've actually really helped somebody.
Right.
That's what was important for me. So if there's some listeners who's saying, yeah, but I don't know what that's for me, is like, don't think too much about work. Just think about what's important to you in your life. What are the areas of your life where you feel fulfilled and what are the areas in your life where there is something missing. You do a little wheel of life for yourself. And then that will help you figure out, oh, I don't feel connected with nature and I really want to be in nature. Okay, well, that will then inform over time what you need to change in your life. And it may be a career change or it may not be a career change. But if you really want to have a big change, then that would be my advice, is to see on a physical, emotional, mental, and also spiritual level. What are you missing out on now? And what will you have if you make that change that you don't have now?
Okay. So thank you for explaining that. So messaging is one of the steps, 3 steps that you told us earlier on that you take
Mhm.
your client through in order to build that executive presence. So right now, there are a lot of hardworking professionals that are invisible at work. They do great work, but they are getting passed over for career advancement.
Mm.
The number one communication mistake that keep these people stuck.
Yes. So a lot of people have great ideas, but
Mhm,
they never communicate them.
mhm,
So take up the courage and communicate your idea in a way that is interesting to the senior person, that the most relevant senior person. And the way to do that is lead with your conclusion. Think of your idea as a newspaper, and you want that senior person to pick up the newspaper. So what will be your newspaper headline about your idea? And the newspaper headline will basically be following this template. I recommend we do, and then the action. It will prevent, and then the risk it will prevent, and it will achieve, and then the goal it will achieve. So I recommend this action. It will prevent this risk. It will achieve this goal, and then bring in some estimated figures if you can. So maybe ask a friend or somebody who's not emotionally involved in the situation for some advice on what figures will be relevant, something that the senior person is interested in. So if the person is a HR person, they will have a different language and different interests than, say, a financial person, and just tailor it to somebody from that background. And you can use AI or a friend to help you with that. So the newspaper headline, that's my communication tip for people who want to increase their visibility at work.
I love that. So, and that's powerful in my opinion. So, uh, let's hear from you, Bianca. How did your experience on the sales side shape the way you now coach senior leaders? I want to know your coaching style.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had a very unconventional leadership style for the time at the time, because it was still very much elbows out, defend yourself kind of mentality. At the same time, we got told never give anybody the hard sell. So that was the environment I was operating in. But what made me stand out is that I listened more than I spoke.
Mhm,
But listening is not passive. Listening is actually active. So you listen to the person, and then after a while, as you get more proficient in it, you actually hear what's important to them.
so
You
good.
write down the emotionally charged words that they use, which is their criteria, what's important to them. You're smiling because there's something going on for you, right?
Yeah.
Um, so what's important to them, and then you write down the things that you pick up from what they're saying and what's important to them, and then you use it when you make suggestions or recommendations to them because you already know what's important to them. That's how then you can influence them. So when my clients come to me and ask me, hey, I'm frustrated, my boss is not listening to me because I have this idea, but they're not listening to me. The first thing I will ask them is, what's important to your boss?
Mhm.
So
That's,
if you're a materials engineer, does your boss really need to understand all the technicalities of the new machine that you want to buy?
mhm,
Or does your boss, who's a finance person, just need to know how much money is he investing in the machine and what's the payback period? Um, but you'd be surprised when I actually ask my client, oh, what's important to your boss? My client said, well, in our country, which was Germany, our country, there's a real shortage of qualified engineers. And actually, this machine will save so and so many full-time employees per year. That's what's interesting to my boss. So boom, we had the newspaper headline of how he's going to get his boss to approve the investment in this machine. You know, I recommend we buy this machine because it will save us, whatever the number was, 6 or 7 full-time employees from next year. And the boss approved it there and then. He did not need to understand what the machine does, how it tests the materials, why it's so much better than the setup they have at the moment, right? The boss just needed, trusted my client, who was the head of the materials engineering team, that he's the expert in this. The boss was just responsible for managing the finances. So the conversation was a lot shorter than my client anticipated. As long as you have a good pitch, a good newspaper headline, you will be able to influence people so much easier. So this is influence from my days as stockbroker, where, you know, people don't have much time. They don't need to understand everything that came in your thinking process. They just need to understand what's interesting for them from their point of view.
I like the way you expressed it, and I'm gonna what we are telling our audience here is that the newspaper headline, that's critical. That's the way we should communicate. As we wrap it, Bianca, if you had 60 seconds with every ambitious professionals that are listening to us right now, what's the one thing you'd want them to walk away and do differently starting maybe next week?
Yes. So remember, you're a lighthouse. If you believe in yourself, that will ignite the light. So your light will shine brighter. Remember the breathing, so the clouds will disappear and you will shine brighter than you've ever shone before.
That's so good. So finally, what do you wish you had known in your first year at Morgan Stanley?
Ah, so I wish I had known that one of the best things you can do at work is to just be your own quirky self. And if you believe in yourself and respect yourself, then other people will believe in you and respect you. And then you can be a little bit quirky now and again, especially if your topic is boring, because people like to laugh.
That's true. That's so true. Thank you so much, Bianca. My listeners, they would like to connect with you. They would like to know you better. So where can they find you so that they can continue this journey alongside you?
Yes, you can easily find me on LinkedIn as Bianca Riemer, spelled Riemer.
Thank you so much. We enjoyed this episode, and I'm sure my listeners, they are going to find it very, very beneficial. Thank you for coming on the Career Evangelist podcast, Bianca.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Bola. It was a lot of fun. I always love to talk about the newspaper headline.
I love it. Thank you.